Welcome into a special edition of Groomer's Take, the NHL expansion draft episode for the Seattle Kraken. This episode we're going to go through who I would take from each team. It did change a little bit with the Chris Dredger news, so that was kind of fun to tinker with. My team looked a lot different from when I first made one a couple weeks ago. And I know it's going to look a bit different now with the negotiations that the Kraken can do with other teams for them to not take certain players. But with the knowledge that I have, I kind of put together a team that I think would be competitive, but also have a lot of room to grow. So anyways, this is going to be a bit of a longer episode. So let's get comfortable. I'm going to go grab a coffee, and we're going to go through 30 teams right now here on Groomer's Take. All right, let's get started. Alright, so I've got another screen up here with the cap-friendly website that I use to make my expansion team. I'm just going to go down in alphabetical order the way they have it, and I've filled out a little depth chart for myself, and we can hit on where I put each player. Let's do it. Anaheim Mighty Ducks. I went with Alexander Volkov, a 23-year-old left winger, an RFA in 2022. 23 years old, $700,000 on the cap. Young guy. You can slot him down on the left side. I have him pretty far down, 5th or 6th winger. But Alexander Volkov from the Anaheim Ducks. I looked at guys like Kevin Chattenkirk, but Kevin Chattenkirk to me is more of a complimentary guy now rather than one you can go to, and his contract is up in 23. Maybe if he was a UFA after this season in 22, I would have done something different, because Chattenkirk at the age of 32, being a right D, you could probably get a pretty good return for him at the deadline, but I think it's a bit more of a gamble. So Alexander Volkov, welcome to the Seattle Kraken. Moving on to the Arizona Coyotes, this one was a bit of a curveball with all the trades that were made on Saturday, with Adin Hill moving on to the San Jose Sharks. That meant Kemper was staying, and originally I think a lot of people had Darcy Kemper being chosen and Adin Hill being a bit more of the future goaltender for the Arizona Coyotes. With that being said, the Arizona Coyotes traded Adin Hill to the San Jose Sharks for a young goaltender named Joseph Coronar. He is 23 years old. He'll be an RFA at the end of this season. Small cap hit of $723,000 and a bit of change. But I like Joseph Coronar. He played some games at the end of the season for San Jose last year. And, a bit of a need more consistency, but showed some promise. And I think that Arizona did a good job keeping Kemper here. But if I'm the Seattle Kraken, I can pick up Joseph Coronar and put him somewhere in my 3rd or 4th goaltender slot, depending on where you have him. I have him in my number 2 right now, with the news of Chris Dredger coming to Seattle. Boston Bruins. This was a bit of a tough one as well. At first you thought Craig Smith was going to be there, but Craig Smith was protected. So I went in a whole different route, and I took a young defenseman, Jakub Zaboral, 24 years old, lefty, $725,000 cap hit, and he is an RFA at the end of the 2022 season. So I like picking up a young defenseman like this, where you can decide as an RFA, we want to keep him. You don't have to give him a huge contract after this year, and you can slot him down deep in your left defenseman slot. The Buffalo Sabres. The Buffalo Sabres did not have a lot of great things to choose from. You had some centers. Originally, I had Cody Eakin. Well, no, that's a lie. Originally, I had Jake McCabe, but then I realized that's not really going to work. Then I had Cody Eakin, and then he didn't have a great year. It's a bit bigger of a cap hit, because I thought Cody Eakin could be deep down in my centerman depth position. He can help young guys on the team. But in the end, I taking a bit of a bigger cap hit, and I took defenseman Colin Miller, 28 years old, plays the right side. He's just under $4 million a year, but the good thing about him is he's a UFA at the end of 22, and if I'm the Seattle Kraken, I could flip him. I wrote him down in my depth chart as a flip immediately if I got a good offer on it. Let's do one more here before we take a little breather. Calgary Flames. This is my big one here. Mark Giordano's left unprotected. I'm sure the Kraken will say, well, we won't take Giordano if you give us a first and Dylan Dubé. Or if I'm the Kraken, I'm saying, I like a first and Andrew Mangiapane instead. I don't think that's going to happen. So ultimately, I think Mark Giordano is headed out. The captain of the Calgary Flames might be going to the Kraken tonight at the age of 37. Left-handed defenseman, just under $7 million. But he is a UFA at the end of the 2022 season, and I think there'll be plenty of teams in the NHL who are doing that playoff push or thinking that Giordano could be the last piece, and they will trade a first to the Kraken for Mark Giordano. I've heard he could be the first captain of the Kraken, but I don't think the Kraken will name a captain right away unless they sign Mark Giordano to a couple-year extension. I mean, he is 37 years old. I don't really see the sense in naming him a captain right now. I think they'll do what Vegas did and maybe play a complete season without a captain. Breather time. Okay, let's start the second period, if you will, with the Carolina Hurricanes. I'm taking my first kind of big hit on the left side, but I'm going to slot him in as my number one left winger, and that's Nino Niederreiter, 28 years old. Cap hit of $5.25 million. He is a UFA at the end of the 2022 season, so here we go again. I think Niederreiter is a bit of a complimentary guy, but one that's a good teammate. He's a good mix, and you could trade him at the deadline if you wanted. At the age of 28, you could try and sign him to a 2-3 year deal, but hey, if you wanted to get a bit more of a return for him, I think teams would jump on Nino Niederreiter at the deadline. But Nino Niederreiter, welcome to the Kraken. Moving on to the Chicago Blackhawks, another one that was really tough for me, but what I loved about the Duncan Keith move to Edmonton is this opened up Nikita Zadorov on the blue line as my first RFA that I'm trying to take off the board. I'm taking Zadorov, a 26-year-old left and right defenseman. His cap hit last year was 3.2. I'm going to bump that up to a 4-year, $4 million per extension for Zadorov. I think he's a good team player. He'll protect his guys. He can bang a little bit and put some points up. Nikita Zadorov, really nice piece on the blue line. And I think he'll fit in great with the Kraken. Colorado Avalanche, this was a bit different. I didn't think that they were going to protect guys like Nazem Kadri or Andrei Burakovsky. They made some moves to protect those guys, and they left Jonas Donskoy unprotected. I'm putting him in my right wing position on the second slot. You'll have him till the end of the 2023 season. He's 29 years old, and he makes just under $4 million a year. Again, a bit more of a depth guy, but can put in probably 20 to 30 points a year, hopefully more than that. But Donskoy is a good little piece, and to feel competitive, I'm picking him up from the Colorado Avalanche. Columbus Blue Jackets, I went a little depth with Kevin Stenlund, 24-year-old right winger, just under $1 million a year. He's an RFA at the end of this season. You can decide what you want to do after that. Dallas Stars, I'm taking a veteran, someone that can help my team on the blue line for the next year or so. 35-year-old defenseman Andrej Sekera. He can play the left or right side. He makes $1.5 million, and he's a UFA at the end of 22. This is the same sort of situation with his age. You might not want to hold him after the next year's deadline. Get some assets for him. Teams will want a guy like Sekera for a playoff push. Andrej Sekera, Seattle Kraken member. Detroit Red Wings, another bit of a tough one for me. There wasn't too much to choose from. In the end, I'm taking young defenseman Troy Stecher, putting him on the right side, 27 years old, $1.7 million cap hit, and again, another expiring contract at the end of the 2022 season. Kind of like that fit there. Edmonton Oilers, this was a tough one as well. Bounced around with a lot of different ideas. Devon Shore was in there. Are you taking the cap hit at Chris Russell? Are you taking Juha Kera? Ultimately, no. I'm taking another RFA right now, Dominic Cahoon, 26 years old. He made just under $1 million, and I'm going to offer him 2 years with $1 million per. I think that can get him on the Kraken. You put him in your left wing, maybe third line. I actually really like my third line that we'll hit on after. But Dominic Cahoon, welcome to the Kraken. Florida Panthers, another one that jumped around. So we did hear the news. Chris Dredger is going to be signing with the Kraken on a 3-year, 10.5 total salary. So with that being said, I'm getting some more grit on my blue line. A big mean guy in Radko Gudas, 31 years old, plays the right side. He has a cap hit of 2.5, and you have him through the 2023 season. This is one of my favorite pickups. I think Florida's going to say, please don't take Gudas, but we'll see. Radko Gudas, welcome to the Kraken. Los Angeles Kings. Okay, so I looked for speed here because I didn't like anything I was choosing from. So I took another low contract, a 24-year-old right winger, Austin Wagner. He's an RFA at the end of the 23 season. This is my left side fourth line winger. Speed can kill. Austin Wagner, welcome to the Kraken. Second period over? Sure. It's early in the morning, having trouble getting going here. Feeling live, feeling loud, but let's keep going. Minnesota Wild, another one that I jumped around so much with. Originally I had Carson Soucy, and then I think I changed it to Victor Rask, but no, ultimately once Kaapo Kakkonen was not protected, big surprise here by me, Cam Talbot being protected by the Minnesota Wild. I think he's a decade older than Kakkonen. This could be a thing where they say we'll give you a second whatever picks and 2 guys to not take Kakkonen, but I don't think that's going to happen. I mean, I thought they would have just protected him anyway. 24 years old, an RFA at the end of 22, so it is your decision if you want to pay him. You pick him up. He is going to be my second goalie with Dredger there, but you give him 25 to 30 starts maybe, and you see what you get. This is one of my favorite pickups as well. Kaapo Kakkonen, welcome to the Seattle Kraken. Montreal Canadiens, I didn't do it. A lot of people did. They picked up the Carey Price contract. In the end, ultimately for me, it's just too much money. It's just too much. Yes, he could be the face. The injury is not a thing to me. He is Carey Price. His family is from the Seattle. His wife's from the Washington area. He grew up, I believe, in BC. A lot of it makes sense, except the money for me. I just didn't do it. I went with a defenseman, Brett Kulak, 27 years old, left D, just under $2 million cap hit. Again, another expiring contract. I wanted to load up with a lot of these defensemen because you could easily flip any of them now or at the deadline. Brett Kulak, welcome to the Seattle Kraken. Nashville Predators. Ultimately, in the end, this is one of my favorite pickups. It was hard. I circled back on this Nashville team plenty of times. Huge news of them dealing Ellis to Philly, but that made some space for them to protect other people that they wanted. I'm not taking the big ticket in Johansson or Duchesne. Those are terrible contracts, and there's not enough production from those guys. What is, I believe, a very good contract and very good length and term, and a very good player you can put in the center position on your third line is 27-year-old Colton Sissons. Can play any position. He's got just under $3 million of a cap hit, and you have him through the 2026 season. I love this here. So with our third line there right now, we have Cahoon on the left, Colton Sissons on the middle, and somebody on the right side. New Jersey Devils, pretty easy here. I'm taking the flyer. I'm taking the risk on Will Butcher. Slower season last year, but I think it was the year before that he looked pretty good. He's only 26 years old. He plays the left side. He makes 3.7 and change a year, and he is a UFA at the end of this season. So with an expiring contract like this, sometimes players step up because they want to make a nice contract coming up. I have him slotted in beside Mark Giordano, so I wonder if they can complement each other. Gio can get Will Butcher going, but that's my top pairing for the Seattle Kraken. Will Butcher, welcome. New York Islanders, another one I circled back on, but I think this guy's worth the ticket at $5 million per through the 2024 season, and that's every position guy, Josh Bailey, 31 years old. I think he's going to be kind of my points guy. You saw he could do it in the Island, but that's because they're a very well-oiled machine, and I'm hoping that he could be quite the cog in my machine for the Seattle Kraken. Josh Bailey, big ticket, but welcome to the Kraken. New York Rangers, one that I also circled around with. Am I taking Anthony Potato? No, I don't want to. Do I like any of these other wingers? No, I don't. I'm going with a 28-year-old, Colin Blackwell, centerman. You can put him as your fourth line center, or really just a guy you filter in. He makes $725,000 a year, and again, another expiring contract at the end of this season. Nothing huge here, but you could throw this guy in your lineup whenever you want, and I don't think you'd be terribly disappointed. Ottawa Senators, I bounced around. Am I taking Dadonov at that price? Can he still do it? Ultimately, I went a bit out of left field, and I'm taking goaltender Joey Daccord, 24 years old, $750,000 cap hit, and he's an RFA after the 23 season. I'm really just throwing him in at the bottom of my goaltender depth chart, and hoping I don't have to use him too much throughout the NHL season. But Joey Daccord, welcome to the Seattle Kraken. Philadelphia Flyers, talk about one that I think the NHL we're going to see. The rumor is that the Flyers desperately want out of the Voracek contract, and they're willing to pay a first-round pick for the Kraken to take him. So, I mean, if I'm the Kraken and they're offering that, then yeah, I'm going to do that. But since I don't know for sure, I'm taking Robert Hagg on defense, 26 years old, can play the left side, another expiring contract at the end of this season. $1.6 million per, and this guy will hurt you. He'll put up some points, and he'll do a good job protecting your front of the net. Robert Hagg, welcome to the Kraken. Let's do one more before we take a little break again. Pittsburgh Penguins, talk about jumping around, and unfortunately I like this kid, but this is just to take a guy. I think Pittsburgh did a pretty good job. If you want to take Jason Zucker, do it. I'm not a big enough fan to do it. I don't think he'll get you the points that you want. So I'm taking just a guy, Sam Lafferty, centerman, 26 years old, $750,000 paycheck, UFA at the end of this season. I have him right at the bottom of my centerman depth. He might not see a lot of ice time, but you never know. New home, Sam Lafferty. Welcome to the Kraken. All right, one more break. I'm sure we all made our teams. Everyone looks different. I'll tell you right now, I'm just about $10 million under the cap hit after my team, which gives you room to you signing Dredger and maybe some other complimentary guys. There are some very intriguing free agents out there this year, so I'm glad I have that $10 million to spend, but I also think I'll be kind of competitive. I can't wait for tonight, guys. The expansion draft. I can't wait. I wanna see what their minds are thinking and what was being said behind closed doors and all that, and who they maybe lied about. Right? I can say I want a player, and then they say, well, okay, we'll give you this, but I had no intention of taking that player. I absolutely love Ron Francis's position right now. All right. Excuse me. San Jose Sharks. This was a bit of a no-brainer. I'm really a fan of this guy. He's my fourth line center. 4 years to come, I believe. Dylan Gambrell, 24 years old, centerman, makes under $1 million right now at $700,000. He's an RFA after the 2022 season, but this guy, he is on my team for the next 4 years, guaranteed. And you can put him through your lineup, kind of, sort of, but really, I think he is a best fourth line centerman. Dylan Gambrell, welcome to the Kraken. St. Louis Blues, here's my big ticket, but I will say I'm flipping him right away if I can. Vladimir Tarasenko, injury-prone career, shoulder surgeries, those are scary in the NHL, but 29 years old, he's my number one right winger. He's my points guy. He could be the face if he stays, but then again, I don't think he's going to stay in Seattle. Tarasenko has a cap hit of $7.5 million, and that's through the 2023 season. So here's my take. If he's hot, right, you could flip him right away if you get a deal you like. If he plays the season and he's looking great, maybe you trade him if you're gambling on his health for the 2023 season. That's the best part of it. If he is having a bad year and you're not getting good offers, just sit on it. Eat the money. Maybe he comes back in 2023 with a head of steam, and you can get a better value for him. But if I'm Ron Francis right now, I'd be fired up to have Tarasenko on my team. It's just the injury prone, right? Hopefully he can stay healthy. Tarasenko, welcome to the Kraken. Tampa Bay Lightning, this is where it gets spicy. So I've got guys here, Andre Palat, Yanni Gourde, Alex Killorn, Tyler Johnson. That's pretty much it, right? So first I had Palat because I think he's the best player, but I'm looking at age and contract. Yanni Gourde, centerman, just a bit younger, can play any position. You have that contract through the 2025 season, and it's just over $5 million per. This is my number one center, guys. I have Yanni Gourde in between Nino Niederreiter and Vladimir Tarasenko on my top line. Now, the rumors in the NHL is that Tampa's going to say, we want to keep Palat, please. We'll pay a bit extra. You can have Yanni Gourde and Tyler Johnson. Tyler Johnson's great. He's more of a complimentary guy now, and that ticket at $5 million is huge. But if you're getting paid a bit extra under the table or whatever, for the Seattle Kraken, it might be worth it. But for me, right now, I'm taking Yanni Gourde. Welcome to the Seattle Kraken. Toronto Maple Leafs. So everyone's talking about Kerfoot, and the thing is with the Kraken, you need to put pucks in the net, and I think Alexander Kerfoot is your best option. I have him slotted as my second line center. 26 years old, a $3.5 million cap hit isn't too bad for what Kerfoot could do. He did step up kind of sort of when Tavares went down. He's a UFA at the end of the 2023 season. Alexander Kerfoot, I think the Leafs are happy about this as well. They want that money off the books. There was another, could they take Dermott? Could they take recently acquired Jared McCann? But ultimately, I think for an all-round player, Alexander Kerfoot is a good ad. Welcome to the Kraken. Vancouver Canucks, not a lot to choose from. I went young on the blue line. Madison Bowie, 26 years old, plays the right side. Under $1 million cap hit, UFA at the end of the 2022 season. Another expiring contract that you would like to have start fresh. Vancouver, just be happy that you didn't have much to choose from. But Madison Bowie, welcome to the Kraken. Okay, 2 more, 3 more, 2 more. Washington Capitals. Bounced around a bit here too, but here's my third line right winger, Garnett Hathaway, 29 years old, plays a bit of a mean game. I like my third line being a bit mean, but can maybe put the puck in there as well. 29 years old, left wing, $1.5 million, UFA at the end of the 2023 season. Garnett Hathaway, good pickup here. I don't think they'll be too upset about it. People talked about Vincent Vanacek. But unless you want to load up with goalies, I don't think you have to with the other goalies that we already have on the team. So, Garnett Hathaway, welcome to the Kraken. Winnipeg Jets, last but not least, here's my fourth line right winger, guys, in Mason Appleton. I think there's potential here. I think he could become a 2020 player in the NHL. Right winger, under $1 million cap hit right now, and he's an RFA at the end of the 2022 season. Mason Appleton was given opportunity to play up and down the lineup, and I think he looked okay. Getting into the age of 25 now, you can see some growth perhaps out of him. So I think that the risk here is very low, and the upside might be a little bit high. So, like I said, my cap hit is $71.8 million. I have just under $9 million to spend. 3.5 of that million is going to Chris Dredger. So with this, I have some room to play with any free agents that I want to look at, or if I just want to cruise with this team. But it's very exciting. I'm going to quickly blast through the lineup that I made, starting with my first line, Nino Niederreiter on the left side with Gourde and Tarasenko. Then I have Josh Bailey, Alexander Kerfoot, and Jonas Donskoy. Third line, I think my favorite line, Dominic Cahoon, Colton Sissons, and Garnett Hathaway. Bit of a mean punch there, but could also produce. Austin Wagner, Dylan Gambrell, and Mason Appleton on my fourth line. Complementary fifth line, Volkov, Blackwell, Stenlund, and then I have Lafferty hanging down there just until the end of the season. My blue line, Giordano and Will Butcher, Andrei Sekera, Nikita Zadorov, Robert Hagg, and Radko Gudas. That is a mean third line. And then I have Kulak and Stetcher complementary, Zaboral and Bowie, and then Colin Miller, who I hope to flip immediately. Goaltenders, we know Dredger will be up there, but for this case I have Kakunin, Coronar, and Joey Decord in net. That is my Seattle expansion draft team. This was fun. It took a lot longer than I thought. A lot of different moving parts, especially when you hear rumors in the NHL. This team is probably going to be way off than what the actual team is with the trades and agreements that go down. But let's see how many I get right. If you made your team, let me know if you have any of the same or if you disagree, and let's compare. Seattle expansion tonight. A long Groomers Take. I hope you sat through it. I hope you enjoyed it. I had a lot of fun doing this episode. Enjoy your days, guys. We'll talk to you later. Groomers Take. See ya.